So it's Winhance Devlog time again, and this devlog video is going to be a really short one. I just want to kind of show you what I've been working on as it relates to Winhance and just some of the decisions I've made about the project in the past week or so. So on the screen here, you can see that the latest release was Winhance release number 20, which was posted last week. So I haven't released a new update to Winhance yet at the time of this recording. And today's date is the 26th of February. And that's not because I haven't been working on the application, but what I've been working on is kind of a major refactor as it relates to code quality and just the maintainability of the application. So if we look at the past commits that I have here for the dev branch, there are a ton of commits that I've made to the dev branch since the last release. And this is all related to cleaning up dead code, refactoring, to get a higher standard of code quality in the application, also as it relates to code correctness and the maintainability of the project. So you'll see there are a ton of commits here, like I just explained, and these are all going through different phases of the refactor. But in the midst of this, I've also added some translations. People requested a Turkish translation as well as the Korean language support. I've also added the Microsoft.oscd image winget package as the primary source for OSCD image when it comes to the Windows installation media utility, and then fixing some touchpad scrolling issues caused by nested scroll containers in the application. So it's code quality as well as some bug fixes that I could work in between that. But the whole point of this code quality refactor is to be able to implement tests. So if we look at the left here, you can see that I've got a ton of documents here on the left as it relates to the code quality. So I started out with this tests plan, and all of these plans were created and implemented by Claude Code. So I gave the instruction of wanting to add tests and I wanted it to give me a plan. So it basically gave a initial plan, and this thing has been reworked and updated probably like 16 times already. So I went through 16 rounds of code quality checks and code quality implementations. The last document that I have here is version 16. And you can see even this document was almost 500 lines of code. And at the end of the day, after 16 rounds of doing this, the code base was finally ready for test implementation, and there were no further code quality reviews needed. So at the start of these code quality checks, there were really a lot of places in the code base where potential bugs could arise that might have just not occurred yet. And after doing all of these code quality checks and implementations, the code base is now in a much better shape and finally ready to implement tests. So I have implemented the tests already. As you can see, there's a new tests folder here for all 3 layers of the application. So what these tests do is basically when you build the application, it'll also run those tests and actually test the code in the code base for any errors. And then if it fails, you'll have to fix that before you can actually build the application and use it. So it's basically designed to catch errors before the application goes out into production. Now you might think, why didn't I have this from the start of the application? And that's just because I'm not a developer. I'm learning as I go. I've said it countless times before. I'm not claiming to be a developer or a coder or anything like that. With the rise of AI, I'm basically teaching myself how to read code and how these projects work, and also looking at other people's projects to understand how things work as it relates to software development. So every time something like this happens, it's like it clicks in my head and I'm like, okay, now I understand why this certain thing is needed, and then I add it as well. So for most people, adding these tests and what I'm busy with now, what I've been busy with the past week or so, you're not necessarily going to see that visually in the application. But this is for me so that I don't have to spend time chasing down bad code in the code base, and that I can actually focus on what Winhance is about. And that is making Windows better, making Windows 10 and Windows 11 better. Because there's 2 sides to this coin. You get the application Winhance that must function correctly on Windows, but the other side of the coin is the purpose of Winhance is to make Windows better. But I'm not going to be able to make Windows better if the application contains bugs, crashes, and doesn't run properly. So that's what these tests are for. And for example, if we go to the issues page here, there was a person who opened this issue where if they enter the config review mode and they go to the power optimizations, the screen is just blank. Now, this doesn't happen in my testing. I also can't recreate it. But the point is the tests, if the correct tests are implemented, and I specifically referenced this issue as well for creating the tests, then this type of thing won't happen because the code is clean. The code's not going to be clashing with each other. There are no race conditions for code trying to do the same thing simultaneously. It's all clean with a single code path. The code is much cleaner, and the code paths that are used in the application is structured much better with better exception handling and error handling and that type of thing. So I'm not saying that Winhance is now just going to be bug-free after implementing these tests, but it is for sure going to help preventing some of these weird bugs that people might find while using the application that I'm not finding during my testing. And this also gives me some peace of mind, because now I can go and I can look at the actual issues as it relates to Windows not being made better, which is the ultimate purpose of Winhance. It's to enhance your Windows experience. So all in all, to sum it up, right now, the past week, I've been working on making the application more maintainable with better code quality, cleaner code, so that the application itself, as it relates to the code of the application, is not full of bugs. Once that's done, and those tests are automated every time I build the application, now I can focus on the actual bugs that people have as it relates to making Windows better. It works on Windows 10 and Windows 11, but obviously Windows 11 is much worse compared to Windows 10 if you ask a lot of people. And I'll also have to keep up with the Windows updates and ensure that Winhance works after each Windows update if new settings or anything like that might be added. And like I've said many times before, all of my GitHub projects, including Winhance, is a learning experience for me, so I can gain more knowledge and understand the world of software development much better. But with all of that being said, I just want to thank everyone who uses Winhance and who's giving me constructive criticism and feedback. I really appreciate that. And if you're watching this video all the way to the end, I really appreciate that too. If you don't mind, give it a like, leave a comment with your thoughts down below, and then I'll see all of you guys soon.